Conor McGregor is the highest paid fighter in UFC history. He headlined the biggest pay-per-view events in combat sports. He crossed over to boxing and generated over $600 million in revenue for a single fight against Floyd Mayweather. But here's what most people don't realize. McGregor made more money selling whiskey than he made from his entire fighting career, combined. Somewhere between $100 and $150 million total. Proper number 12, his Irish whiskey brand, sold to Proximo Spirits for a deal valued at over $600 million. His cut? Estimated at $150 to $200 million from that single transaction, and more than every punch he's ever thrown professionally. And the way he did it? He turned the UFC into his personal advertising agency. Every press conference, every weigh-in, every post-fight interview, he wasn't just promoting fights, he was running commercials for his whiskey brand, and the UFC was paying for the airtime. This is how Conor McGregor built a business empire that dwarfs his legendary fighting career. To understand how McGregor thinks about money, you have to understand where he came from. 2012, Dublin, Ireland. McGregor is 24 years old, living with his girlfriend Dee Devlin, and collecting unemployment benefits. 188 euros per week. That's about $200. He's training full-time at Straight Blast Gym, but he has no professional income. Dee is supporting him, working multiple jobs while he chases a fighting career that hasn't paid anything yet. He later described this period in an interview. He said he was broke but fully invested. Most people in that situation would get a job. McGregor saw it differently. He saw unemployment as an investor in his future, giving him the runway to train full-time until the opportunity came. The opportunity came in 2013. The UFC signed him after he'd built a reputation in the European regional scene. His first UFC check? $60,000 for a knockout win over Marcus Brimage. Not life-changing money, but proof that the gamble might pay off. What happened next is the most documented rise in combat sports history. By 2016, McGregor held 2 UFC belts simultaneously, the first fighter to ever do it. He knocked out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds for the featherweight title. He beat Eddie Alvarez for the lightweight belt. He was the biggest draw the sport had ever seen. But here's the part of the story most people miss. Even as McGregor's star was rising, he was watching the economics of his situation very carefully. And he didn't like what he saw. The UFC 196 card where he fought Nate Diaz reportedly generated $75 million in revenue, just from the live gate and pay-per-view. McGregor's disclosed purse, $1 million base plus pay-per-view points. A good payday by UFC standards. A fraction of the value he was creating. When he fought Floyd Mayweather in 2017, the numbers got even more stark. The event generated somewhere between $500 million and $700 million in total revenue. McGregor's take was around $100 million. Historic for him, but still a small slice of the total pie. The casinos, the networks, the promoters, the venue, everyone was eating off his ability to sell. McGregor understood something that most athletes never figure out. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a media company that happened to fight. And he was giving away the most valuable asset he had: attention, in exchange for a paycheck. After the Mayweather fight, McGregor took time off. He didn't fight for almost 2 years. And when he came back with a different strategy. September 2018, McGregor launched Proper Number 12, an Irish whiskey brand named after the Dublin 12 postal district where he grew up. Now, celebrity alcohol brands were nothing new. George Clooney had sold Casamigos to Diageo for $1 billion the year before. Diddy had been building Ciroc for years. The playbook existed. But McGregor did something different. Something that most people watching didn't even realize was happening. He turned every UFC appearance into a whiskey commercial. Watch the press conferences from 2018 onward. McGregor shows up with a bottle of Proper Number 12 on the table. He drinks it during interviews. He holds it up for photos. When he knocked out Donald Cerrone in 40 seconds at UFC 246, what did he do in the post-fight interview? Grabbed the mic and talked about Proper Number 12. Millions of people watching. 0 advertising dollars spent. This wasn't accidental. This was strategy. They buy Super Bowl ads at $7 million for 30 seconds. They sponsor events. They pay for billboards and social media campaigns. The customer acquisition cost in the alcohol industry is brutal. McGregor paid nothing. He was already going to do the press conferences. He was already going to be interviewed. He was already going to have cameras on him. All he had to do was make sure the bottle was in frame. The UFC became his advertising agency, and they didn't even charge him for it. Let me put this in context. A single UFC pay-per-view event with McGregor headlining generates hundreds of millions of media impressions. The press conferences alone get tens of millions of views across social platforms. The embedded series leading up to the fight, the weigh-ins, the post-fight interviews, all of this is professionally produced content distributed globally. Industry estimates suggest that McGregor generated somewhere between $100 million and $200 million worth of media value for proper number 12 just through UFC appearances. Paid advertising value. For free. That's the strategy. But the strategy only works if the product is real. And this is where McGregor was smarter than most celebrity founders. A lot of celebrity brands are pure licensing deals. The celebrity lends their name, gets a royalty, has minimal involvement. If the product fails, they lose nothing but credibility. McGregor went deeper. He partnered with Proximo Spirits, the company behind Jose Cuervo and other major brands, but he took actual ownership. More importantly, he priced the whiskey at around $25 a bottle, accessible for his fan base, positioned to move volume, not sit on shelves as a status symbol. This is a critical distinction. Casamigos worked because it was genuinely good tequila that people reordered after the celebrity appeal wore off. Proper number 12 needed to follow the same logic. You can generate trial purchases through marketing. You can only generate repeat purchases through product quality. The proof is in the numbers. By 2020, 2 years after launch, Proper number 12 had sold over 6 million bottles. It became the fastest growing Irish whiskey brand in America. It wasn't just curiosity purchases from McGregor fans. People were reordering. In April 2021, Proximo Spirits acquired a majority stake in Proper number 12. The reported deal value was $600 million, though the structure was complex, likely including upfront payment plus earnouts based on continued performance. McGregor retained a significant minority stake and an ongoing role promoting the brand. His personal take from the transaction? Estimates range from $150 million to $200 million in immediate value, plus continued economics on the remaining stake. One whiskey sale. More than his entire UFC career. But McGregor didn't stop at whiskey. The Proper number 12 playbook used existing attention to build owned equity became his template. In 2021, he launched Tidal Sport, a CBD and pain relief brand aimed at athletes. Same strategy. Use UFC appearances and his massive social following to generate awareness. He'd mention the products in interviews, post about them during recovery, integrate them into his public training footage. The economics of social media advertising make this strategy incredibly powerful. McGregor has over 50 million followers on Instagram alone. A single post from him generates millions of impressions. If a brand wanted to buy that exposure through the paid advertising, it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. McGregor can generate that value for his own products at any time for free. Then there's real estate. McGregor has built a property portfolio across Ireland, Spain, and the United States. The Black Forge Inn, a pub he bought in Dublin, became a local attraction partly because of his ownership. He purchased a yacht, he built a mansion in Ireland. How real estate is a different game than brand building. It's about capital deployment and appreciation, not media leverage. But it shows McGregor's evolution from make money from fighting to build assets that compound. The pattern across all of it is the same. Convert attention into ownership. Now, let's be honest about what hasn't worked. McGregor's UFC career since the Proper number 12 era has been inconsistent at best. He lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov in 2018. He lost twice to Dustin Poirier in 2021, the second loss ending with a broken leg. He hasn't fought since July 2021, partly due to injury recovery, partly due to business focus, partly due to a scheduled fight with Michael Chandler that has been repeatedly delayed. His public image has taken hits too. Multiple legal issues, controversies, accusations. The brash persona that made him a superstar has sometimes crossed into territory that damages the brand more than it builds it. And the TIDL sport investment? The CBD market has been brutal. It's unclear whether TIDL will achieve anything close to the proper number. 12. Success. The whiskey market itself has gotten more crowded. Every celebrity now has a spirits brand. The differentiation that made proper number 12 stand out in 2018 is harder to maintain in 2024. McGregor is not a perfect businessman. He's volatile, unpredictable, and his greatest strength, the ability to generate attention through controversy, is also a liability when that attention turns negative. But here's the thing. The strategy still worked. Even with the setbacks, even with the controversies, he converted peak attention into an asset worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The timing was right, the execution was right, and he got out before the window closed. But here's where the story takes a turn that most people haven't connected yet. In late 2024, a Dublin civil court delivered a verdict against McGregor in a high-profile case. The details dominated headlines, and almost immediately the corporate world began to distance itself. Proximo Spirits, the company that paid $600 million for proper number 12, quietly removed McGregor's likeness from marketing materials. The face that built the brand became a liability to the brand. And remember that deal structure? The one with earnouts based on continued performance? When the face of your whiskey disappears from the bottle, performance suffers. Those back-end payments McGregor was counting on? Likely gone or significantly reduced. It got worse. Tesco, Musgrave, and other major Irish retailers began delisting McGregor-affiliated products. The distribution network that took years to build started contracting in months. And then there's Forged Irish Stout, his beer brand launched after the proper number. 12 success. In 2024, that business reportedly lost over 7 million euros. The Black Forge Inn, his Dublin pub, has accumulated millions in losses. These aren't side projects bleeding a little cash. These are businesses hemorrhaging money that needs to come from somewhere. This is the part of the McGregor story nobody's talking about. He may have built a $600 million empire, and when the personal brand became toxic, the empire started cracking. The man who turned attention into hundreds of millions of dollars is now learning the other side of that equation. When the attention turns negative, the assets become liabilities. There's speculation that McGregor's return to fighting the Chandler fight, the constant talk of comeback, isn't about legacy or competition anymore. It's about cash flow. He may be asset-rich, but cash-poor, forced back into the octagon not for glory, but to subsidize businesses that are bleeding without his promotional machine running at full power. The Trojan Horse strategy was genius, but it had a fatal flaw. When you are the brand, your personal liability becomes business liability. There's no separation. There's no firewall. Compare this to how other combat sports athletes have handled wealth. Floyd Mayweather made more money than any boxer in history. Estimates suggest over $1 billion in career earnings. But Mayweather's wealth strategy was accumulation, not building. He took the checks, kept the checks, invested in depreciating assets like cars and jewelry. Mike Tyson made over $400 million in his career and went bankrupt. He's rebuilt since then. His cannabis brand and media presence have created new income streams. But the lesson stands. Earning money and building wealth are different games. Oscar De La Hoya built Golden Boy Promotions into a legitimate business with value beyond his personal brand. That's closer to the McGregor model, using fame to build institutional equity. But McGregor did something none of them did. He recognized that his primary value wasn't punching people, it was commanding attention. And instead of selling that attention to others through endorsement deals, he kept it and deployed it toward building his own brands. Most athletes think, how do I get paid more for what I do? McGregor thought, how do I own what I can make valuable? That's the difference. So what can you actually learn from this? 3 things. First, McGregor was going to do UFC press conferences whether he owned a whiskey brand or not. The cameras were going to be on him regardless. The only question was, who benefits from that attention? By owning proper number 12, he made sure he was the beneficiary, not just the UFC, not just sponsors, not just the networks. If you have any platform, a social following, a newsletter, a podcast, a customer base, you have attention. The question is whether you're monetizing it for yourself or letting others monetize it through you. Second, equity beats fees, almost every time. McGregor could have done endorsement deals with existing whiskey brands, get paid a few million to hold someone else's bottle at press conferences. Instead, he took the ownership position. The difference? A $3 million endorsement deal versus a $150 million exit. This is true at every scale. If you're skilled at something people will pay for, you can trade that skill for a salary, or you can trade it for ownership. The salary is predictable. The ownership is where wealth is built. Third, speed of execution matters, but so does building something that can survive without you. McGregor launched proper number, 12 at peak attention, and captured massive value. But he never built a brand that could stand independent of his persona. When the persona cracked, so did the business. The lesson isn't just move fast, it's build something that lasts beyond your personal spotlight. Timing isn't everything, but it's not nothing. Conor McGregor walked into the UFC as a welfare recipient from Dublin with a dream of being a world champion. He achieved that. He became the biggest pay-per-view draw in the organization's history. He crossed over to boxing and made more money in one night than most fighters make in a career. And then he did something most athletes never figure out. He converted attention into ownership. A whiskey brand that paid him more than every punch he ever threw. But the story didn't end there. The same strategy that built the empire revealed its fatal flaw. When you are the brand, there's no separation between personal and professional. The verdict in Dublin didn't just damage his reputation, it damaged his balance sheet. McGregor proved you can build a $600 million business on the back of fame. The last 2 years proved something else. Fame is not just a depreciating asset. It's a volatile one. The next time you watch a McGregor press conference, if there is one, pay attention to what's on the table. And ask yourself, is that bottle building an empire or trying to save one? That's the real business.